In today's episode, we are in Girona, just north of Barcelona in Spain. This is a little known Spanish gem, and I'm sure after this episode, you will definitely want to visit. Many people do day trips from Barcelona as it's only 39 minutes on the fast train, but we share the best 3-day itinerary for exploring this fascinating city. Of course, we talk about the most preserved Jewish quarter in Spain. We walk the city walls after we found the entrance, thanks to a group of teenagers who disappeared before our eyes. Girona is a huge sporting city and is world famous as being the place where many teams live and train for the Tour de France. Stay listening to the end to hear about the best food, the most interesting cocktail we saw, but also to find out about the Red Bridge. This bridge was designed and built by an extremely famous person who was responsible for the most recognisable structure in the world, but he built this bridge first. So please enjoy episode 121, and if you want to see the photos that we took of Girona, then click on the link in the episode description on the player you're listening on now. It'll take you there, and if you do go and you see the picture of that red bridge, you will instantly know who built it. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to the Beach Travel One podcast. I'm Leanne, and hello, Lyle.
Buenos dias, Leonita.
We're back in Spain, as you can tell by Lyle's fabulous accent there. We are going today, as I said in the intro, to a little town that most people don't really know about, or if they go, it's only for a day trip. But we want to try and convince you it's worth more than that. And it is a little town just north of Barcelona called Girona.
Yes, it's fabulous.
It is. We really loved it. So why don't you give us a bit, like Lyle's done all the info for us on where we're going and what it's known for, really.
Population over 103,000. Its area is 39.1 square kilometres. It is the capital city of the province of Girona in the autonomous community of Catalonia, Spain. At the confluence, which is where they all meet, of the Ter, Onya, Gallegans, and the Güell rivers. It's known for its medieval architecture, walled old quarter, and the Roman remains of the Força fortress. Girona it's 100 kilometres north of Barcelona.
And so that's why it's popular as a day trip.
Yeah,
it's really close.
And it's only 65 kilometres from the French border.
Oh, yes, it's closer to the Pyrenees than French, yeah.
Yeah, so now how do we get there?
Yeah, we hopped on the fast train.
We did.
Yeah.
Barcelona to Girona train service operated by the Renfe Viajeros depart from Barcelona Sant station. Yeah, as Leanne said, it's the high speed. The best way to get from Barcelona to Girona is the train, which takes 39 minutes and costs between $9 and $35 Australian. Alternatively, you can catch the bus, which costs between $11 and $19 and takes about an hour and 15 minutes. There is a small domestic airport as well.
Okay.
Where you can drive just straight up the highway if you're game enough to drive a car in Europe.
Okay, so a couple of things on that is we had to be longer at the train station than we did on the train. You got to go through security and line up and that sort of stuff.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah, so it's and you're upstairs and you're all in a waiting area, and then you've got to go through the little security and go down the escalator, and they won't let you down there until the train comes and empties out and everyone comes up. So you book your seat, so that when you book your ticket, you get an allocated seat, and there's plenty of room for luggage. But once again, it's, as you said, it's 39 minutes, so it's not really a big deal if you've got to stand up with your luggage, is it?
No.
And I know you're going to talk about this in a minute, but there's a brand new, in the last 10 years, there's been a big new train station / bus station at Girona. So they've made it very easy for people to get there and get back and also like do a bit of an interchange. Like we did use the bus one day as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Barcelona train station is pretty new as well.
Yeah, and it's
nice
easy to get
clean, lots of good
easy
signage.
You can negotiate your way around for sure. Yeah. And I love those fast trains. It's really cool. So we had a few days in Barcelona, as you know from our previous episode, if you listen to that, and we're on now episode 121. And any of the places that we talk about, once again, you can see all the pictures at beachtravelwine.com, episode 121. But as always, in the podcast description on the player you're listening on now, I will have a link to, you can go directly to that page, and I'll put links in there to the accommodation and any of the tours that we actually did as well. So yeah, Girona is 100 k's from Barcelona. We've caught the fast train, and we got to Girona, and there was no taxis.
Yeah. Look, we waited quite a while for a taxi because there's taxi ranks just outside the station. But it was really, really hot, and it was only we worked it out, it was only going to be about a 20-minute walk.
I don't even think it was that, was it, to our hotel?
Now, the hotel we stayed at was the Hotel Gran Altonia.
Now, another reason we walked is it's all flat.
Yeah.
There was no hills or even cobblestones, really. There were not modern streets with modern pavements, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And it was so we basically left the train station, headed down to the main road, and walked along that main road.
Yeah. And the hotel, one of the good parts about, or the best part about the hotel, was it's only 5 minutes from walk to the old town and
the plazas and the restaurants and shopping
stuff.
Yeah, it was in a great.
Now, the hotel itself,
was pretty cheap too, I remember.
Yeah, it was really cheap to what we paid previously in Croatia. And look, it was a really big, large, modern reception area. They obviously did conferences because there was conferences there when we were there. The rooms were really big. Bathrooms, everything was modern, clean.
But what was your favourite thing?
Oh, of course, the rooftop bar. Yeah, like goes without saying. And
that was great.
And you know what is even better? A large glass of wine was only about €3. It was perfecto.
See. All right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about our history?
I can.
Yeah, about Girona. That'd be good because we've arrived. We know where we're staying, and a lot of the attractions or the things people go to see in Girona has to do with the history of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read this. So
it's a walled city, just so you know. Yeah.
Okay, the first inhabitants were Iberians. Later, the Romans built a citadel there. Then came the Visigoths until they were conquered by the Moors. Charlemagne reconquested it in 785 and made it one of the 14 original counties of Catalonia. It was sacked by the Moors 5 times. Now, this guy is pretty important. Wilfred the Hairy. Wilfred the Hairy incorporated it into the county of Barcelona in 878.
Oh, I didn't think you liked sharing that nickname with people.
Oh, good one. The earliest documented evidence of a Jewish community in Girona dates to 885. The 12th century saw the Jewish community of Girona flourish, having one of the most important Kabbalistic schools in Europe. Now, you're going to ask me, because you asked me yesterday, what a Kabbalistic school is. It forms the foundation of mystical religious interpretations within Judaism. The Jewish community of Girona came to an end in 1492 when the Catholic monarchs outlawed Judaism throughout Spain. So when the Christian monarchs come in, probably everybody's aware, but they had the choice. They could either convert to Catholicism.
This is the Jews.
The Jews. Or they could go into exile, or they got killed. Simple as that. Now, Girona has undergone 25 sieges and been captured 7 times. So I'm not sure about the wall. Well, it's a city wall.
Well,
and the 25 sieges is okay, but the 7.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is that's a pretty good ratio. If you've been under siege 25 times and you've only been taken over 7, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I suppose it's 30%.
Yeah.
A 60% success rate.
There we go.
So your mathematics is amazing. Now, the city walls. What did you think?
Oh, I was really actually blown away by the city walls. I think I was blown away by all of Girona, to be honest. And you've just sort of not skimmed over, but given us that brief, the history of the Jewish quarter.
There is more.
Yeah, we will come to that. And first of all, you've got to walk through the old town, through the Jewish quarter to get to the walls. So I was loving looking at all of that. There's 4 entrances into the walls. Now, it says they're 3 kilometres long. I don't think we walked 3 kilometres. However, we did do the whole thing, and it's free. So the walls, obviously, they used to go all the way around the city. Now it's basically along one of the rivers,
Yep.
And even along the walls, there's like towers that you can go up. So not only do you get the view from the walls over the whole old town and then over the gardens on the other side and little courtyards along the way, you can go up the towers and see even, further past outside Girona, because it's quite flat and you can see, the mountain ranges, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And as I said, it's free. I mean, they do close it, so you can't go there in the middle of the night, but it's really well preserved and it feels very safe, which is something that matters to me. And the views of the cathedral and the town was stunning.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the first enclosure of this wall dates back to the 1st century BC, coinciding with the Roman foundation of, they called it Girunda. Now, the wall that's there now, that's from the 14th century. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's quite old.
Yeah, look at, it's funny,
There was parts that was very narrow and very straight, and then there were parts that you went through, and once again, I've got the photos, like little archways and very cobblestoney and almost trees growing along the part of it as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, on one side of, especially as you said, it was sort of on the banks of the Onya, so the actual, it was quite green.
Yeah,
to be honest. So, look, it was pretty well preserved.
yeah,
really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So we walked all the way down from one end, and we sort of. What happened was we were watching. We weren't quite sure where to go. Had a look on, and now I know why, because there were 4 entrances. But I watched these group of like teenage kids, like school kids, go into this little courtyard area, and they never came out.
I don't remember that.
It was like Picnic at Hanging Rock, wasn't it?
I think we even said that.
Yeah,
like, it was a bit scary.
And because I'm like, okay, this must be the entry. But so we went in, and there was like a little staircase down, and that didn't lead anywhere. And then there was a little like raised area where there was a couple of monuments and fountains. And you went up there and walked around, almost like touching the walls, feeling our way, seeing if there was like a secret passage or something. And we just couldn't find it. And then all of a sudden, there was behind a wall, there was this little sort of rickety brick or stone staircase that took us up, and it was behind like one of the walls. So we found it. We're like, okay, this must be it, and we followed that, didn't we?
Yeah, so it was more us than class, so we actually found the wall.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have found it if those school kids hadn't gone in and they never came out. We're like, surely they've got to be in here somewhere. Oh, that was quite funny. So, yeah, we walked all the way along, and once you get right to the other end, you can then see more of the Onya River, but also a bit more of the modern town, and a lot of the buildings are very colourful, aren't they?
Yeah. And when we actually caught the train into to Girona, on the outskirts of the city, it's actually quite industrial.
Okay.
Yeah, well, commercial industrial. So, but it's look, it's a pretty modern city, really. The other city,
but it's worth going there. A lot of people,
the modern side of the city,
go to Girona for a day, and they do the city walls. If that's all you've got time to do, that is a wonderful thing to spend your time doing. Yeah. But we luckily booked a few days, so we decided we would do a walking tour.
Yeah. Then the next day,
and interestingly, there were 6 people on the tour, so 3 couples, and we're all Aussies. Do you remember that?
That's right. We were. That's right.
Yeah.
There was
a young couple that had come for a day trip from Barcelona, and a couple about our age and he was a bike rider.
And we'll talk to you more about the bike riding, why it's famous in Girona. Now, the first stop at we had to meet the gentleman, the tour guide, who was English. And he was a voice actor. And so when we were listening to him, you could tell, well, he just sounded a bit different.
Yeah.
But he was a lovely man. And
so we met on the banks of the Onya River, and we crossed over the bridge and came across a little courtyard where we were looking at
La Leona de Girona.
So it's the Lion of Girona.
Yes.
Girona. Looks nothing like a lion.
No.
Because when it was done, when the original one was done centuries ago, no one in Girona had ever seen a lion. They were just going on stories that they'd heard.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I read something else where they thought it was a monkey to start with. But
Yeah, they
anyway.
did think it was a monkey after when it was done, but that's what happened. But yeah, our guide told us that
Now the legend
because it does look more like a monkey than a.
does.
So it's this big pole, not big pole, like a normal
It's a column.
column, right?
Right.
A tall one, and there's this animal that's supposed to be a lion, which is up the top of the pole, hanging around off it, so that I can see why people think it's a monkey. And the reason it is there is because
Now it dates back to the 12th century. Local tradition holds that you had to climb the column in order to kiss the El Cal de la Leona.
so the lion's bum,
Well, it says lion's ass.
yeah. So you
To become an accepted citizen.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so when we
And
were
now the bum's really shiny.
it is.
Yes, like people are just from touching. So the bottom
Sure.
of the lion,
Yeah.
is all shiny.
And
yeah.
basically, what they say is that the current legend is it's so that you'll come back to Girona.
all right.
You get the chance to come back.
But
Now, the other side of it too is that we actually couldn't do it, to be truthful, because they used to have some steps.
Yeah.
And there two things happened. One was COVID.
Yeah.
And so they took the steps away because they didn't want people, obviously. And the second one is in 2005, someone fell off it and died.
Yeah.
So-
But it's not the original one anymore, is it?
No. The original is in
The local museum.
Local museum.
Yeah. All right. But that's just the first thing we saw, and we saw so much more. So after the lion's bum, our tour guide took us. There's two very famous basilicas or cathedrals in Girona,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, there was just so much to learn about it. But the first one we went to, like, it doesn't look that impressive from far away, but when you get there, and they've both got massive staircases, but and this one did as well. So it's the Basilica, yeah?
Yeah, the Basilica de Sant Felix.
Yeah.
And it's open 7 days from 10 till 7. The Collegiate Church of St. Felix is a basilica dedicated to St. Felix dating to the early days of Christianity. Its construction occurred before the construction of the Girona Cathedral between the 12th century and the 17th century. It retains much of the Romanesque construction, completed later with a Gothic nave and a covered Baroque facade. It has 8 Roman and early Christian sarcophaguses of the 3rd and 4th centuries, along the Gothic tomb of Narcissus of Girona, who, according to legend, was one of the early bishops of the see. His tombstone and all that's pretty amazing. You can actually get audio tours, and it's $7.50, and it's both the basilica and the cathedral.
Our walking tour didn't include entry in, but we were convinced quite easily to go back and do the audio tours.
Look, no, great. You get a map with each.
It was really good.
With each church, you get a map, and it's really, really easy to navigate. The way they've sort of sorted out the numbers, and then you just press the button, and it was really quite historic. Now, the legend of Narcissus' tomb.
Yes. This is the tomb that's inside St. Felix.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Upon entering the city, the French desecrated its body and thousands of flies.
So the French came in, because when you said this to me earlier, I didn't quite understand. So what you're saying is the French came in and desecrated the tomb, right? Yes. Okay.
And thousands of flies bursted out of the wooden tomb and went straight to attack the French troops, which fled. This is the miracle of St. Narcissus flies.
Okay, so that makes sense because all around town in the shops, the souvenir shops, there's lots of stuff with the flies on it. And you're just like, what the heck? Because being in Aussies, we hate flies, right? I'm not going to buy a T-shirt with flies on it. We try everything we can to get rid of flies, don't we?
Yeah, but we're used to flies, so...
Yeah, but I was just like, when we first got there, I had no idea what these... souvenirs were with flies on them is my point,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so now that, like when we found out that story, that made sense. It's related to the history, yeah?
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I only just realised that then.
Oh, really?
See, I remember as soon as you mentioned the flies and then you said all the souvenirs, and I went, that's right.
Oh.
Cathedral of Girona.
Now, go and check out the pictures, honestly. You won't believe the staircase. Now, this is one of the Game of Thrones sites, and we're not really going to talk about the Game of Thrones on this because we didn't do a Game of Thrones tour, but there are maybe half a dozen sites, around Girona, and it's nowhere near, obviously, people don't go there as much as they go to other places like Dubrovnik. But this staircase, they, like in the filming of, I think it's part of Knots Landing, they had a horse on these stairs, and it took days to get the horse to be comfortable to go up the stairs.
That's right.
And the locals were
extras.
Thank you. So the locals were extras, and get this, they could only be an extra if they didn't have any piercings or tattoos.
That's right. I remember. Yeah. Well, actually, the tour guide had showed us photos from the actual TV series, and was comparing the photos and showing us.
Yeah, that's where the markets were. Yeah. But even if you're not into Game of Thrones, you're going to be amazed at this staircase. 99 stairs.
Correct.
There we go, counting stairs again. It's our favourite hobby when we travel. But it was just stunning. And the first time we saw it, there was hardly a person around.
Yeah. Well, actually, really in Girona,
I know, there
wasn't many tourists at all.
No, you got to go there.
Yeah. Now, the Cathedral of St. Mary is a Roman Catholic cathedral, the seat of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Girona. The cathedral's interior includes the widest Gothic nave in the world.
It is huge.
With a width of 23 metres and the second widest of any church after that of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. Now, for comparison,
and I do get photos
for comparison, Notre Dame's name, Notre Dame de Paris,
yes,
in Paris, obviously, is 12 metres.
Yeah.
So it's twice the width.
Yeah, the nave. Yep.
Now, for people that maybe don't know what the nave is, the nave is basically where the congregation sits in the church.
Okay.
So, look, it's huge.
Yeah. And then there's the front of it. You've got the stairs, and you've got all the indoors, but then it's decorated on the front of the outside, and then there's another famous entrance on the other side, which was stunning.
You're not going to believe this, but I've got that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm describing it because I just was blown away and got amazing photos, but there is a history to it.
The church has a Baroque main facade, begun in 1606, with the upper part finished in 1961. Preceded by a large staircase completed in 1607. So that's when that huge staircase was built. The sculptures decorating the three corners of the facade were executed by local sculptors in the 1960s. Other exterior features include the Gothic portal of the St. Michael's on the northern facade, which is what you're talking about, and the southern portico of the Apostles from the 14th century. The latter originally featured sculptures of the 12 Apostles, which have mostly been lost, aside from the two depicting St. Peter and St. Paul's, now in the church's house. The church has two bell towers.
It does, huge bell towers, yeah.
The oldest, named after Charlemagne, is the surviving one of the two originally flanking the first Romanesque church. The new bell tower, 70 metres high, started in 1590 and was completed in the 18th century.
Yeah, and when you're on the city walls, you can look back on that cathedral. I've got a really stunning photo. You've got to go and have a look at them.
Well, now, the interior's single nave is surmounted by cross vaults supported by Gothic buttresses. The side walls feature pointed arch stained glass windows. The upper reaches of the wall bear a large central rose window, 1705, dedicated to the Archangel St. Michael. Flanked by two smaller ones, the higher altar is white marble, dates to the 11th century. That is unbelievable. Yeah. That is really, really beautiful. The Cathedral Treasury and Museum.
Yeah, because you've got all this, and then to the side you can go out, and it's got like a courtyard area.
Cloister.
The cloister.
Yeah.
And a museum as well.
Yeah. Now, the main attraction is the Tapestry of Creation.
Yeah.
An 11th century or early 12th century piece considered amongst the masterworks of Romanesque tapestry.
So you go through all the museum, and right at the back, they've got this huge
It's
tapestry.
huge. Now
Yeah.
it's 3.65 metres
Yeah.
by 4.7 metres. So it's bloody big.
Imagine-
And it's basically the Bible's creation story, but it's done like in circles.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like it's back in
Yeah.
the 11th century, like unbelievable.
Like A, what did they use as thread? B, what did they use as colour? And C, what did they use as tools? And then the skills to put it all
I'm
together.
pretty sure it was wool and linen.
So once you leave the cathedral and head around the back, which is impressive from the outside, isn't it? We were talking about that big sort of area at the back of the church. We went outside and behind that. And then a bit further on is a few more of the Game of Thrones scenes. There's the staircase that was the markets, and that's right near the Arab baths.
Yep, yep,
and that's another sort of area that is worth going to have a look at, and the architecture's pretty cool too.
Yeah, now that's open Monday to Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sunday, 10 to 2. The first records of these public baths, which followed both the Roman and the Islamic tradition, date from 1194. Yeah, the complex was used continuously until 1285, when it was partially destroyed during one of the many sieges and wars with the neighbouring French. In 1294, King Jaime II ordered it to be rebuilt. 5 areas of the bath still remain. There's the changing room, the cold room, the warm room, and the hot room, and the space for the oven. Now, the frigidarium, which is obviously the cold room, contains an octagonal pool surrounded by temple-like structure with 8 columns, one in each corner. The room is topped by a small cupola supported by a barrel vault. It has a 12-metre height. The capitals are decorated with leaf and animal motifs, and the arches are semicircular rather than horseshoe shaped. The warm and the hot pools have similar structure, a rectangular room and barrel vault with vents for the light and air. So, look, it's pretty impressive. It's only look at that. It'd probably take you 10 minutes really to have a look. But,
well, you can go and have a bath though. They do that. Like
so
and it's not expensive to go in that either. It was only a couple of euro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was.
To
use
use the Arab baths.
Yeah, it was only a couple of euros, but it was fascinating, and you just think how clever these people.
Yeah, when you think about this little town has those amazing city walls. It has those 2 cathedrals with like all the decoration inside and the big staircases and the Arab baths, and we haven't even got to the old town and the Jewish quarter. So it's pretty cool.
And this is all built without electricity.
Yeah.
Without power. It's amazing. Now, the next place we headed towards was the Jewish quarter. Now, Leanne loved this particular area.
It was only small, and it forms part of the small old town.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was so well preserved, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's known as the Alcalde. It is one of the most interesting areas in the city of Girona, both in terms of architecture and history. It is part of the old town next to the banks of the Ionia River. It dates back to the 12th century and is one of the most well-preserved Jewish quarters in Europe. It was inhabited by the city's Jewish community until 1492.
Now, just to interrupt you there. Do you remember the legend he told us where there was a Jewish woman that was basically a bit outspoken for her time, and they were worried that she was going to get all the Jewish community into trouble, so she got killed?
Yeah.
And where she was killed is like a little tunnel way.
Yes, that's right.
And they say that it's haunted.
Yes.
Yeah. And you walk through that tunnel. It's not very long, but oh my gosh, it was a bit eerie going through there.
And actually the tour guide did a really good job of that.
Yeah.
Like, he really did, because you really could imagine that, described how...
Well, we're standing in the square where apparently she was killed, and
it's still haunted to this day, they say. Yeah, look, it was a really interesting story, and the thing was why it was so well preserved is the
Jewish quarter.
Yeah, they basically, it was underground. They discovered it.
Well, what the Jewish people did, they left. They thought, well, we don't want people to see all the stuff we had inside our houses. They were trying to be very humble, and they thought they'd come back, so they locked up all their houses.
Correct.
Boarded up all their houses.
Thinking that they were going to come back,
and they left. And sort of from then on, basically, it got forgotten. And year after year, there's another layer of dirt, another layer of sediment, etc., etc. And it was completely under earth for a couple of centuries until it was discovered. And then, so that's why it's so well preserved. And they just found this stunning Jewish quarter.
Yeah, it's made up of a labyrinth of narrow streets, robust houses, staircases, arches, and patios. And we went into one of the patio areas.
Yeah.
So, look, and there is a Jewish museum in Girona. We didn't get to that. Probably a little bit disappointed we didn't, because it was like the story that our guide gave us was incredibly interesting.
So the Jewish quarter forms part of the old town. Yeah.
Sure.
And as I said, the old town, it doesn't seem very big, but then when you think about the city walls on one side and then all the way down to the place where we went, where we found another bridge and another cathedral with the stairs. I got photos of that one. It wasn't a very big one, but we sat down right down the other end. And
I think that was a monastery as well.
Yeah, okay.
That was part of a monastery, yeah.
And,
I do remember that,
an archway bridge that went over the top. Just and little shops everywhere. And these weren't like highlight spots like the other two cathedrals. But if we found so many little interesting places in that old town, and we just wandered and wandered. Like you could spend a half a day just wandering around more, couldn't you?
And we found an Irish bar to watch the football.
We did want to watch the football. And there's a street called St. Augustine, I think it's called. History has it that was the main trading route, and it started way down south in Spain, in Cadiz.
Yep.
Which we've been watching some shows on that recently, and that was like a port town.
Correct, yep.
One of the busiest ports in Europe at one stage. And so that road basically goes straight the whole way and eventually ends up in Rome.
Yeah.
And so you can walk that main street runs all the way through the old town, and there's still a cafe today with the same name of what it had back in the day when it was a trading route. And the cobblestones are like so old. But what they've done
shiny.
What they've done in the old town now, it's such an upmarket area. Like there are Rolex stores, it's got all those huge names, right? But it's also got really trendy little boutique stores as well. Some really nice, as we're talking about tourist stuff, but they're not your normal cheap crap. Some really nice local
fashion shops were. Well, we bought stuff.
Yeah, fashion shop. We'd spent 6 weeks in Croatia and found nothing to buy, and we hit Girona, and there's just stuff everywhere that's just stunning. You made a comment earlier that you thought that the people there dressed so well. Was a really and obviously it's quite a well-to-do town because of you don't have a Rolex store if people can't afford to buy Rolex, right?
Yeah, well, the other thing which was quite unique, and we sort of at first we didn't get it, but we actually asked around. There is so many bicycle shops.
Now, when you say shops, what we're talking about, the ones that we saw, we've got the old stonework, and then they've put in a big glass window, and inside
floor to ceiling.
Yeah, and you can see that from the courtyards and the cafes, and in there they've got obviously road bikes for sale, and there's people in there
and
working.
They've got bike mechanics,
and as well as that, there's shops all around town with bike fashion, is it, or bike?
Yeah. Gear, I suppose, and it's all the best of the best.
Yeah. Now, the reason is there's a huge cycle area. People come from all over the world, and there are several teams that actually go and live in Girona, and they train for some of the big races.
Yeah, the Tour of Italy and the Italia, and also the Tour of France.
I know a lot of places now have bike racks around, but the bike racks around Girona, Old Town, are just on steroids. They're just everywhere. It's incredible, wasn't it?
Even like where we went we had dinner at the Plaza de la Independencia, and like it's basically a plaza. It's just like most Spanish cities, just surrounded by restaurants, cafes, and whatever. And we sat there, and I just couldn't believe how well dressed everybody was. Like there was no going out in your fitness gear or anything for dinner,
unless you're on a bike,
maybe. But like that was really impressed me. The food everywhere we went.
Let's talk about the food, because I have to say, we talked about our hotel and where close it was to this plaza we talked about, but also in the old town. We sat down at our first bar, and I was just so excited because they had pinchos, which is like, I know you can't say this in Spain, but they are like
Tapas.
an upmarket tapas, I guess. They're from the Basque Country, really.
Yeah.
But and so cheap.
Yeah, 250 or something it was.
And they had Tinto de Verano, and the wine was cheap. The
What's
beer was
Tinto
cheap.
de Verano for our friends?
Well, it's like a red wine with basically lemon squash in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't drink it, but you drink it in Spain.
Oh, and it was just after, the expensive, we're paying €6 for a 100 ml of wine in other countries.
Like we were having like half a breadstick of this is for the pinchos with avocado and
salmon. Yeah.
Like smoked salmon, and it was just magnificent. And like for €2.50.
Yeah, so we checked out a few of those restaurants there. So you can't go wrong with food in Girona.
What was the name of that place? Because we had breakfast there as well.
It was called Shots. Oh, we had my favourite breakfast in the whole world, tomate de tostada or tostada de tomate. And I don't know how they do it. It sounds basic, toast with tomato on it. But it's not just any toast. It's this light, fluffy bread like you've never tasted. And the tomato is mixed with, obviously, olive oil and some salt. But I think they grate the tomato. I don't know what they do, but it's just amazing. And then...
Yeah, well, you can have it either with olive oil or balsamic vinegar.
And then you get your cafe con leche. And we just went there and had that, and I just made my heart happy and my tummy.
I think we both had coffee and the
tomate de tostada,
and I think it was about €10.
Yeah,
like it was ridiculously cheap.
So we were so happy there, and we went there a couple of times to that place. And let's talk though, because we're on one side, and then you've got to cross the Oña River. Now all along it's not like a massive river, but I've got some beautiful photos because the buildings right on the river maybe 3 stories high, and they've got these beautiful, they're not pastel colours, but they're like deep colours. They're all painted pretty colours, and they look and the reflections in the river are stunning, aren't they?
Yeah, and basically the local council regulates what the colours of the palette that's available.
Well, let's talk colours, okay? Because there's how many bridges cross the Oña River?
11.
Right, and I think in this main part of town there's 3 bridges, and we were told go and see the Red Bridge is where you want to cross from the main part of town into the old town.
Yeah.
Now, when we got to the Red Bridge, they'll tell us about it. It's like metal, isn't it?
It is. It crosses the Oña River from Calle de Santa Clara and the Mercado area towards Rambla de la Libertad. It was constructed by Gustave Eiffel just before the Eiffel Tower in Paris in 1876.
So he built this bridge, and if you go and have a look at the photos, you can imagine the bridge standing upright would look like a bit like the Eiffel Tower,
I think he's done a pro forma.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what Lyle was saying, you cross from one side, Calais, which is a street, across to that main street in the old town where you can walk along and find more restaurants. This is where the shops are. We found the Girona football shop, remember? Because they were doing really well in the league. You walk along the water, along the river, beautiful trees, just,
very, very classy.
Yeah.
It just reeked class. And yet it was so affordable.
It was so affordable. That main plaza area where we were, like we've seen many things in Spain, different festivals and things going on, from paper maches to people climbing on top of each other, but we've never seen a chess competition. The whole plaza was set up with tables.
And I'll tell you what, the plaza's a big plaza. Yeah. I mean, it's not small. And it's up there with some of the biggest plazas I've ever seen. And it was just full of speed chess.
Yeah.
It was like incredible. And when we were watching that, we had dinner there. And remember the table next to us? There was a bunch of young. I had drink envy. Because, and I've got a photo. You have to go and have a look at this. And I can't believe, because last night and we were heading home and I'd had enough to drink. Someone's going to have a cocktail, but they had these cocktails
in these big black
ceramic
bullhead mugs. Like they were massive. So I said to them, "Do you mind if I take a photo?" So yeah, chuck that in. I've got that in the webpage as well. So once again, Beach Travel Wine. This is episode 121. You can go to the website or you can click on the link in the podcast description on the player you are listening on now. Lyle, have we missed anything about Girona?
No, just it's not very far from the coast either.
Yeah. Well,
so a lot of the menus, they do have a lot of seafood on it, and I did have the seafood, and it was spectacular.
And just on that, when we left there, obviously we're going to talk. Our next podcast is on a little coastal place called Tossa de Mar. To get to these coastal places, the fast train doesn't go any further to the coast, so you can catch a bus.
Yep.
Now, once again, as we said earlier, the train and the bus station are there close together, and getting around from Girona to these other places is so easy.
Yeah.
You can even do day trips from Girona to the coast. Yeah, a lot of people do that as well. So we loved it.
To me, it was one of the gems of the holiday.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'd heard about Girona. I really didn't know a great deal about it, to be perfectly honest. But soon as we sort of got to that, not even so much in the old town.
The Plaza de Libertad.
Yeah, and just all those all those little shops, those fashion shops. And as we said, I bought a pair of shoes, I bought a shirt, I bought T-shirts, because it was just so outstanding. The gear, the clothes weren't obviously as cheap as the wine in comparison, but quality, really good quality. You're going to ask me something now, aren't you?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going.
Or can I? I'm going to ask Lyle. If you've listened this far, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed our experience in sharing it with you, and we've hopefully convinced you that you need to go to Girona next time you're in Spain or you're in that area of Spain. I would be really disappointed if I hadn't been.
Yeah, and even we stayed 3 days, I think it was, and it was great, but definitely worth a day trip for a 39-minute train trip.
Yeah. Oh, you got to stay overnight.
Yeah.
True. Enjoy the food
But still, it's not a big place, and that old town.
The walking tour, and then we went back and did the cathedrals,
and then we did the shopping.
Yeah,
you forgot to mention that. Yeah, probably.
You're the one that's mentioned the shopping all the time, mate.
I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. Okay, so your favourite place to have a glass of wine?
I'm going to the rooftop bar.
Yeah, okay. I am going to go. There's a couple of places, but I'm going to go the place where we first had my Tinto de Verano, which is right there on the Onya River at that little restaurant called Shots.
Sure.
Yeah, where we went back and had breakfast because we sat outside. We're under a big tree in the shade overlooking the Onya River and the old town, and you can see the cathedral in the background.
And they had the typical pinchos. When you went inside, you could pick, what pinchos you wanted, and look, very, very good.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, please send me an email, leanne@beachtravelwine.com, or of course we're on Instagram @beachtravelwine, and we will see you next time on the Beach Travel Wine podcast. So,
hasta luego.
Adios.